one-man army, Rambo. Baby walking like Naomi Campbell. I be like a sailor, swimming in the money. I was broke, won't go back. This a throwback, by the go in cold beer, baby, hold that. I'm not there yet, but I'm so close. Shine your light on me, I'm lost. Feeling around in the dark. I can feel it, I'm so close. I can feel it in my bones and that. Move our bodies 'cause we own the night.
Welcome back to Twist of Fate, a podcast that's going to help you find your inspiration to make your dreams come true. Today, I'm in the Big Apple, New York, to talk about a topic that is kind of social taboo in our business community: setbacks. Notice I didn't say the F word failure, setbacks. Now, you know, I always talk about setbacks. You got to find a way to walk away with it with your head held high. But there is a process, there is tools, there's a mechanism to help you find your inner peace. And that, my friends, is very important. My friend today is a 2-time Grammy Award-winning TEDx speaker, adjunct professor, and like me, like you, battles back from setbacks, doing all kinds of interesting things to bring your mind at peace. Daniel, my friend, welcome to Twist of Fate.
Thank you, Douglas Younger III. Great to meet you. Great to be here. Just a correction, Grammy-nominated, not award-winning. Just semantics. No worries.
Semantics.
Yeah, just make sure we're clear. Thank you for having me. Yeah, man.
Listen, my friend, yoga, meditation, there's a lot of tools in life that we've even talked before we started here, that our modern life doesn't give space unless you force it, unless you are inspired or enlightened and find someone like you that can make you think a different way. How do you process, in my opinion, like, what do you do when there's setbacks? What's your go-to option? First instinct, favorite thing to do?
Now?
Yeah.
Well, now.
We're going to go back to the journey, but I'm talking.
Well, now it's just, you just sit, especially if it's an uncomfortable setback, because that's, most of them are. You have to find faith that it needs to happen to you. And that may be hard to digest. You don't have any kind of connection to God or spirituality. It helps because faith can't be defined. It can be felt, but it can't be mandated or told or defined scientifically. So maybe it's just some wonderful coping mechanism you develop, but it's a tool because if you've been through enough stuff, if you've had enough setbacks, you trust that this is just another thing that's trying to get you to go deeper into whatever pain, resistance, fear, insecurity, whatever it is. And you got to be able to admit that you have those things. You know, that's the way you get
Maybe
through
first
that.
stop, acknowledge
First stop,
the problem. Right?
Acknowledge that I am 50% contributor, responsible collaborator in the landmine that just exploded in my life. And it could be financial, it could be emotional, it could be a partner, marriage, divorce, a death, a crisis, anything that just forces the brakes on and forces you to feel. Because that's another problem. As a society, we don't feel. We're told bury and run. Everything, bury, don't deal. Feel, we've got to deal because your organs are crying, like your organs grieve. You're not just your mind, like the stress. Like you want to feel stuff, but we're just bury and run. Get right back on the treadmill, right back on the conveyor belt, the hamster wheel, whatever you want to call it. And we don't really spend time processing much. We push through it, which is good for a while. When I was younger, dealing with a lot of stuff, your ego will push. And that's good because it can maybe get you to the next plateau of realization that there's more I got to be doing. So it's not negative. None of it's negative. It's just what has to play out for you. If you believe that.
I want to share something.
Yeah.
I feel one of the greatest setbacks of my life was losing my father.
I know it well.
And everything you said is true. My ego, at the time I worked in corporate, I felt I needed to uplift my community. I needed to be the embodiment of everything my father wanted me to be. And I think I went 6 to 8 months telling myself I didn't feel anything. Until my wife, the love of my life for the last 24 years, brought to my attention that I was grieving.
20.
And that she's never seen me ever this way. And that I needed to get help. Not only was I uncomfortable, I wouldn't acknowledge the problem. Not she acknowledged the problem. And I was in a mental place that I kind of didn't know what to do. Now, how I got out of it, I got a grief counselor.
Sure.
But I acknowledge now, not everybody, especially my audience listening, maybe they can't afford a grief counselor. Maybe my dad was old school and he would already say, you don't want those people talking in your head. I kind of laughed at the idea of it. But I will tell you, I'm curious for you. You've had setbacks. You just said that you've been there before about losing someone. How do you handle that? How did you get out of that mental space? That, what you call it, plateau?
Well, it's different steps on the ladder that, you have to be willing to continue to climb up, even though you'll fall a few steps down, you get back on another rung, you reach for another rung. Me and my dad he was a brilliant man. He was an engineer, provider, roof over the head, food on the table, typical. And most of us in our generation can relate to that. We want to provide. That's what men want to do. We have a warriorship. We want to protect. And they took that very seriously, as did my dad. He was responsible at like 20 years old on a Navy aircraft carrier, making sure all the cables were properly, tensioned so the planes could land. And you can't screw that up. People die. It's like there was no room for error. So everything was perfection to the nth degree growing up. And I was never good enough. He would always correct. And I think as we're learning, if you're blessed to be parents, I was a stunt dad. I raised a boy for a couple years from like toddlerhood to about 4. And that was a beautiful healing experience that actually helped with some of the loss. It was a journey to kind of understand being a dad or a stepdad. The interesting thing is we just had a fight. Mom and dad weren't getting along. And when you're a kid, 15 years old, you don't understand why they're fighting. So they're trying to figure out their drama, karma, trauma that's playing out. And he's trying to stay connected to us as a dad, but we're siding with mom. It's just what you do, I guess. You pick a parent. If there's problems, you don't know why things are happening. And then we're fighting. We have a very bad phone conversation. I tell him to go F off. And then, later that night, his plane's hit by lightning and he's killed. His plane crash. He's 47 years old, and him and a bunch of other aerospace high-level people with like Singer Kierfot, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, all went down in a field in Texarkana, Texas when I was 15 years old. So it's all how it unfolds, and the fact that there's just some things in life where you don't get closure. You have to work for the closure, and you have to use tools. Yoga was one of them. I had to change my diet. My whole body imploded because of the grief, the shame, the anger, words left unsaid, feeling horrible about what you said, and you can't even find resolution. So depending on how the trauma is delivered with all the little side things that are going on, it becomes your journey to beautifully work through the complications of the subtle layers of grief and pain and acceptance to help you keep pushing forward, because, my body was falling apart.
I want to unpack that.
Yeah.
You said you turned to yoga.
As one. Yeah.
At 15 years old?
No.
Later?
No, later. I didn't cry. I didn't go to the cemetery for 7 years. The first 7 years of any intense grief like that, especially father-sons, if you've got that kind of thing going on.
You carried it for 7 years?
Before I even went to the cemetery.
That's a heavyweight.
Well, the Beatles said it, oh, boy, you got to carry that weight a long time, so I carried it because that's what we were told to do.
Did it affect your relationships with other people?
Everything. I mean, look, we want to turn this into a relationship counseling conversation. We can. I mean, we all got mommy and daddy issues, and it plays out in how we fall in love and treat each other, whether it's workplace environment, friends, colleagues, the people that you date. We all kind of date our trauma for a while, and the unresolved trauma gets carried out, and you date, the unresolved anger. As someone who felt so terrible about what I did, what I said, and didn't have slowly coming to grips with what I needed to come to reality with my journey to heal, you date a lot of angry women with angry at their dads. Well, I felt terrible, and so I would just be this punching bag for angry women, and that was my pattern for a long time, where you just try to be nice and supportive and caring, but they didn't want that. They kind of did, but then they didn't recognize it because it wasn't modeled. Everything's patterns. If you look at your own childhood, the way your mom and dad treated each other, that's what you fall in love with for a while until your Oedipus complex is real, and it's no blame, no, it's not terrible. It's just what it is. Until you work on some shifts to try to evolve and not repeat some of that patterning.
And then you found yoga.
Yeah, early 20s. Yeah.
How did you find yoga? Or did it find you?
Yeah, it kind of found me. I kind of walked into a place and was just like, what's going on in Montclair, New Jersey? And just started to, well, that was the studio. Actually, it was.
What were you looking for when you walked in there?
I don't know. It was after I discovered yoga on one of those ESPN. There was some channel. What the hell was that show? Might have been called Yoga Zone or something. Yeah, it was just, I was flipping,
No.
And I just saw people stretching on like a beach. And I just dropped, and just because back then when my autoimmune issues were really severe, I was sleeping 19, 20 hours a day, hardly digest anything, had all these inflammation symptoms of Crohn's, colitis, liver, jaundice. And so your whole autoimmune, your whole body's falling apart. And a lot of it's tied to the grief and the anger. But it was also a dose. It's like when you're a kid, you took tetracycline for acne. And we could talk about gut biome and bacteria and yeast. I mean, that's another part of that we're getting more science about with the gut bacteria and yeast relationships as it affects brain and just overall processing and hormone imbalance. I mean,
was it difficult for you to walk in that, Jim? Because my assumption, your dad wouldn't do yoga.
Nobody, no. But that's,
you needed something at that point.
I always marched to the beat of my own drum, and I was always, I don't have authority issues, but, I'm going to challenge, as politely as I can. If something doesn't intuitively feel right, I'm going to go dig into that just to kind of get my own answers. And that's what you want people to do. That's what you want to inspire the listeners to do. Like, don't settle. I tell my college students, don't take everything. I just watch the videos, hear other perspective. I can only give you what I know based on what I experientially learned. Here's the basis of the knowledge we have in the written form, whether it's a book or whatever, the research you can get access to online. But your own personal experience as it relates to the written knowledge and that documentation of any subject matter is really what allows you to hopefully kind of put your own slant on it and add a new perspective. And, the same way that like either, Nikola Tesla or Galileo, the world's round, guys, like, oh, kill him. There's always forward-thinking people that have obviously tapped into something, and they're bringing forth new perspectives and ideas.
Practicing yoga is broad and deep.
Yep.
What aspect of the yoga really works for you?
Well, first, the breathing.
There's the meditation. Okay, there we go.
It's all breathing. We don't breathe. We're chest breathers. Most of us are still breathing in the chest. We get stressed out. We're not in the diaphragm. And we were born. If you ever see a baby in the crib, it just expands like a little balloon. The diaphragm naturally expands through an inhale, and then exhale just gently relaxes.
Want to be part of our growing community of entrepreneurs and business owners? Join our Patreon and gain access to all of our content, including exclusive videos, Twist of Fate merchandise, and bonus educational content. You can also advertise right on Twist of Fate by joining our ad partner program. Don't have an ad to run yet? That's okay. we can help you by producing a Twist of Fate perfect ad like this one. Check out the show notes and learn how to apply to become an ad partner. And of course, we always appreciate when you like, subscribe, and share. Now let's get back to Twist of Fate.
And they can cry forever, like little Luciano Pavarotti's. They're like little opera singers, and they can wail.
I have
and
three
cry.
sons. I've had a lot of crying.
So yeah,
in my
so
time.
you know it's like, and they're not getting hoarse like Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses or some really intense rock singer who's, gutturally singing from the throat. It's all happening from deep in the diaphragm, and then the tone, the vocal cords vibrate like a woodwind reed on an instrument, and then it's all energy that comes out. And that's where I had to kind of, music was another
And it's also
avenue.
something you could do at that time. Like you had physical ailment.
Couldn't sing. I had nothing. I mean, there was constant when your body has got autoimmune, you're constantly hyper creating mucus and histamine to protect the mucous membranes. I mean, I had such gut issues. It was just, and colon issues. It was just, God, looking back, it's just like, I wasn't supposed to make it past 30, but it was like I had to change my diet, Ayurvedic herbs, Chinese medicine, Indian medicine, which is Ayurveda, which is the sister branch of yoga. So there's these collaborative things happening, physical, emotional.
So you were introduced to all these different paths
in my 20s, yeah.
through yoga,
Yeah.
through that community.
Yep. And trying different things and trying to understand my own, digestive system. Because in Eastern philosophy or Eastern spirituality, you've heard the word chakras, and then Carl Jung really took it to a whole new place in terms of the endocrine system and then the interrelationships of how the organs are very kind of, he personified a lot of the everyday things. Like it's at least agreed upon in that world that the third chakra deals primarily with the digestive system and the stomach and willpower. Fire, Agni, which is the Sanskrit term for fire, is the place of transformation, and fire transforms anything it touches. So digestion, absorption of food, nutrition to the rest of the body, the brain, absorption of food, absorption of life. Absorption is not happening to its fullest potential. Is life fully being absorbed to its fullest potential? Are there setbacks? Are there, there's a link.
So you had a couple setbacks that you're referencing here. The grief of and the loss of your father, your autoimmune disorder, and like metabolic issues.
Acrobatics, hormone imbalance. That's really goes right back to all hormones, serotonin, melatonin,
So all out of
testosterone.
whack.
Yeah.
But practicing yoga, the breathing, and is this how you were introduced to?
No, third grade
Some of these-
recorder. Mary Had a Little Lamb. I played third grade recorder, and that's where my mom saw me as a very rambunctious child dealing with a very, very, dictator type of father energy, just like, jump, how high, sir? And just dealing with all that kind of calmed me down. And she said, wow, he's quiet. And so she put me into lessons in third grade with clarinet, with a really cool guy. I used to run with all those Glenn Miller guys, so it was really kind of neat to just get
I was
some
an
discipline.
alto sax guy.
Yeah, so when music programs were important, and now we're seeing some finally great breakthroughs with the brain and art and being exposed to art and music.
But let me say this: I wouldn't correlate my alto sax with a solution to some of these setbacks we're talking about.
It's all connected. You just don't do it consciously. It's subconsciously threaded into everything that you are, and then you can go down a whole.
Was it that you were some of the music while you were doing yoga or meditating that you suddenly thought, I can do that? I
No.
want to try that.
No, I mean, clarinet and the flutes led to piano and organ, and then guitars and bass, and then drum kit and hand
This
percussion.
is throughout your
Yeah,
life, though.
grade
Okay,
school, high school, marching band.
Gotcha.
All that, just keep learning and evolving and learning different instruments while things are falling apart. While I'm just trying to do anything to push through my discomfort and keep going, even though I felt horrible inside. And there was a lot. Me and my dad had some stuff. I mean, we don't have to get too deep into it, but there's some trauma there. And we all have it. And it's
not resolved
no,
as
we're not taught how to. We don't have the tools until something falls apart on the body level. When there is an autoimmune disruption, you can trace it back definitively to some series of events in your life that just shut you down emotionally or physiologically, challenged your self-esteem, broke your heart, grief,
Let me ask you this. You start to recover
Yeah.
physically, mentally, and then you continue the practice of yoga. It becomes a part of your life. Is that fair?
You can't stop. You can't stop. And martial arts too. Sifu Xinyan Ming has USA Shaolin Temple here in New York City on
What
Broadway
did it do
and
for you
Fourth.
then? Like,
Energy, Qigong, Kung Fu, Kali, stick fighting. You know, you put a pair of sticks in my hand. It's a great workout, yes. But it's also, it helps. You know, a great teacher always said the martial arts is you train to fight, not to fight, because the only fight you're fighting is the fight within your own soul. Because you're angry at something and you go, rah, but you just keep working to release and have a healthy outlet through the forms of martial arts practices to also channel rage. It's not a perfect thing because there's always deeper layers. The more you do this work, there's deeper stuff that's still existing from childhood.
Yeah.
That once you get to a place that there's strength and groundedness in the soul and the body, then you're ready to go to that next more uncomfortable place that you've been digging for the last 30 years thinking, okay, I'm done now. Everything's great. No, you're not done. You're never done. Did you get that? Did you get that? You're never done.
Just when you think you are.
No, you get maybe a reprieve for a few years and get so you can integrate. That's why I did Native American dancing, because that was just like you just kind of stomp out the demons. And I'm still trying to do it, you know.
When you started feeling better
Early 30s.
and yoga had become a part of your life, did you see improvement in all aspects of your life?
Slowly, yes. I was sleeping no longer 18 hours, especially through my 20s. From age 20 to 24, I was 165 pounds. I looked like I was out of an internment camp in World War II. Could only eat 10 foods without having any kind of problems or reactivity. So again, not to relive it, I'm fine with talking about it, but the things I had to do through herbs, Chinese medicine to kind of get the fire rebuilt and strong so I could absorb. There's a thing with yeast that just creates a whole leaky gut syndrome. It's a real thing. It's out there. You can read about it. But like, you know, systemic yeast takes 10, 15 years of just chipping away at your whole internal, you know, what's that word? Like a ship. What's that word? That word of the strength of the hull kind of thing. The strength of the ship's hull. That's your gut, you know.
I'm bringing this up because I think a lot of something that's underappreciated about entrepreneurism. I define it as entrepreneurs get comfortable with getting gut punched. And in a lot of ways in life, we're getting gut punched. But it sounds like you found it's unique to my life. Let's put it that way. Unique to my life. My father-in-law, he's passed away, but he was a big proponent of yoga.
It's awesome.
Huge.
Fantastic. He found it when he was supposed to, for whatever the reason.
Now, for you, making music, though, also is liberating, like you had alluded to. So how did you get inspired to learn all these tools and to continue and explore it? Like, what point did you start saying, hey, I want to start making music? And
Well, I think something that everyone who's listening to this today or whenever they tune into this particular episode, no matter where you are in the stage of whatever challenge or setback, whatever you want to call it, you're still trying to find the good in you, the goodness in you to try to do something to help you cope and deal with whatever discomfort is still processing, because you may not have all the tools yet. And food is challenging because there's so much emotional relationship to why we choose the foods that we eat, even when we know it's not the greatest thing that we should be doing. No judgment, just we're all guilty of that. But with music and sound, it's like I knew in college when things were really terrible, I was constantly just inflamed. I drove my mom nuts. To just sidebar real quick, I was always hearing melody to the point where like Captain Crunch, put it in a bowl and I want a munch. Captain Crunch, always hearing melodies, singing songs about cereal. Kids do that thing. There was a
the commercials got you.
Yeah, commercials, It's slinky. It's there had some good melodies. They were memorable.
In the 80s.
In the 80s, and some of the 70s.
Still have that anymore, but
But when you're a child, you just something emotionally connects with you for whatever the reason. Just like TV show themes. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. That whatever that greatest American. Great melody.
Yep.
But I just like melody, so I was driving my mom nuts. But then as I was getting in my late teens in college, and then everything was engulfed in mucus and I couldn't sing and I couldn't get melody out. It was like my power was being taken.
Sure.
The voice was getting smaller. The body was falling apart. And essentially I could have, I was in a slow journey towards death. I wouldn't have made it past 35 if I didn't get tools and answers. But at 19, the Musicians on Call, they still might be operating a nonprofit in New York City. There was a place called the Rivington House that's part of our undergraduate degree for music. I just felt called to donate time and play the flute bedside to kids and children born with AIDS and HIV. No fault of their own. They just were born for whatever, how do you explain that? Is it karma? Like that's horrible. Like, why is that right? Why is someone born with no choice in a drug-addicted parental environment, and you've inherited through the blood the disease? So I went
for them, because you were trying to provide some comfort.
Yes, and peace, because it helped me give peace to myself at the time. Like it was another thing that just helped me get out of my own problems of self-victimization. Woe is me, because you do that for a while.
I can't anticipate what some of my listeners may be experiencing, but as they're on this journey of life, like you and me, I think many of these things.
Bear hug, yo.
Yeah.
Bear hug. We're all in this. Believe me, we're all in this together. Just talk to each other, help each other. You all got answers for each other.
What would you play to make somebody feel comfortable? I'm just curious.
Probably the flute, just because it's the most natural extension of, obviously, it's pure wood. It's pure energy of the breath. Diaphragmatically connected, and I never really know what I'm going to channel. So if I...
Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, that's perfect. Brilliant segue. Brilliant. So that's the mic. Yeah, so for those of you at home, you're listening, this is a Native American flute. It's in the key of D. It's a bass flute. It's very special. I've had it for a long time.
I was going to ask, where do you get that from?
There's so many flute makers. You can go to like crafts fairs. You can go to some of like Native American indigenous powwows that they have in certain parts of the country.
Where did you get that from?
This came from High Spirits. I'm going to give Odell Berg a plug. I like the guy a lot. He's a very, very sweet man. Him and his wife are very, very kind people. I think it's Arizona or New Mexico. But they have a website, highspiritsflutes.com, I believe it's called. And just you could just tell there's a connection to the craft of honoring the tree or the branch that they're going to convert into a sacred instrument, So that I always enjoyed talking to him as a person when I was really, as I was getting exposed to more Native American culture and different ceremonies and teepee ceremonies and sun moon dancing and all the things that, again, spiritual practices to just keep chipping away at your pain.
Enjoying this episode and want more Twist of Fate? Let's do this thing.
I am fierce. I am powerful.
No, we're going to do it, and then we're going to do it, and we're going to make our own brokerage with it.
I think your strategy was different.
It's not just me. It's a team. No, we're going to work with you, and we're going to walk with you.
Check out over 40 episodes with new ones on the way. Find your inspiration with Twist of Fate. Available to stream on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.
Shamans call it the pain body, so you can get more into the dream body, and these are these places in the deep dream state.
They helped you learn new ways to express yourself musically.
Yeah, and as I got better, or at least seemingly, my digestive system improved, I had more energy, music changed, my voice opened, and it's still work, it's constant upkeep.
You sound good to me.
Well, it's thank you. I mean, I appreciate that. I mean, I think that's part of it too, just being able to say thank you when someone gives you a compliment and not go into a whole long laundry list of excuses. Oh, well, it could have been better, you just thank you so much. And that took a long time to be able to just say thank you when somebody says something nice, like, hey, great jacket. it's just the way we complement and be very, very
Appreciate
real.
that.
Yeah, it's awesome. So it's that's part of it. So this is some flute. So just close your eyes for a minute or two and just listen to this. It should hopefully translate pretty nicely. And set an intention for what you would like to achieve or manifest. It could be healing, gratitude, a shift, something to improve your life. It could be a health thing. It could be something with life or fear or worry, money. Just focus on what you'd like to just, whatever's right there, kind of in a holding pattern of stress and tension. Let the flute hopefully support a release, just even if it's just a little bit, forgiveness of someone or a situation. Just close your eyes and spend a few moments just connecting. And let's see where we go. Keep your eyes closed for a moment and just sit in that kind of little after impression in the silence. Feeling that moment where the brain, you can actually feel it slowing down and your breath started to kind of be more full. And that's the magic. That's really a big part of 50% of the healing process, to just open up the circulatory system.
Daniel, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Historical, legacy. Let me ask you something.
Ask away.
When you play,
yeah,
I'm sure my audience will definitely feel comfort from what you provided. Does it do something for you as well?
Of course. It's everything is a relationship. Everything's relationship. This is a relationship. Everybody, this is all relationship. But it's about intent and intention. And so when I play an instrument in this capacity, it's like I always offer a prayer for the highest healing and growth and evolution of everyone that is going to hear it or benefit or experience it. So I try to talk to other artists who have questions when they hear me do this aspect of my musical expression. I said, well, it's like we go back to where the conversation started about ego. I don't care what art you do. It's a constant evolution to keep making sure that the intention behind why you do your art is coming from a place, hopefully, of some connection to service, not just aggrandizement of your own ego. And that is a hard journey. And I was in that too. And I was in such pain. And it was obviously a parallel relationship between the autoimmune disorder. For me, it showed up and this complicated childhood stuff, the bullying, some of the abuse that happened. And then some of the journey into music as a modality to help me obviously learn the beginning steps to provide social service with sound, and then ultimately yoga and aspects of empowerment with martial arts. And then food. I mean, like if you're not eating, if you're not feeding the brain, putting the right gas in the car engine, it's not going to run right.
Nope.
And so the consistency, that's why yoga is lifelong. Some people get scared of yoga. I was putting it in schools. Once I started feeling better, I was like, okay, I put a suit and tie on and go talk to principals like, hey, let's have a program for stress after school. And then I got the call from the university, which I thought was a crank call. I hung up on the chairperson. I thought it was a joke. She called back. She goes, you're very rude. This is a real opportunity. We'd like to talk to you about you.
Why did you think that's a joke?
Because there was no such thing, or at least in my understanding of an adjunct professor of yoga position at a state university. And me and my buddy Steve would always like crank call each other and do fun things back in the day.
Given our modern life,
well, now if that call
I think there's a huge need for.
I've been there 23, going on 24 years.
There's a huge need for tools that can de-stress, help you deal with setbacks.
The Cliff Notes answer to that: movement, stretch-based movement, whether it's Tai Chi, Qi Kong, slow movement, stretching with conscious breathing, yoga. All the moving and fast stuff is good if you want that cardiovascular thing, which is good. But if you got autoimmune stuff, you got to go slow, because if you push the liver too hard, you'll start to detox too rapidly, and then your body's overloaded with toxins. So everything is case by case, and there's no one size fits all, but our whole society wants one size fits all, especially with education. No judgment. We just got to have the conversation. It's like with pharmaceuticals, like they control the world. No, I'm not against it. Like I got bit by a dog, so I had to get rabies shot. And I don't like taking drugs if I don't have to. But for 25 years, I didn't take anything, but I had to take amoxicillin just because I got 15 stitches in my knee from an Akita, my brother-in-law's dog that nearly took off his thumb. It was crazy. It was a couple years back. And so I'm sitting here reconciling this, knowing I don't want to take this because I went through such things back with tetracycline and how it ruined my gut and blah, 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 blah. So I said, all right, let me do all the things I know how to do nutritionally for the liver. And replenishing gut biome, because I know the minute 1 or 2 days on a gut antibiotic, at least now we're getting to the conversations, the smart doctors are like, yeah, take a probiotic to support the recolonization of the bacteria that's going to get compromised when you take the antibiotic. So it's not like conspiracy. Let's not fight about it. Let's just give people more tools. If I owned Merck, or pick one, pick a pharmaceutical industry, there's probably, at least looking here at this wonderful, wow, what a great, that's Brooklyn, right?
It's a pretty view back there.
Amazing. There's got to be at least 3 buildings that are in foreclosure that could be turned into a hydroponic garden from the inside out. And then these big pharmaceutical companies, right, could have hydroponic.
Why you gotta be a big pharmaceutical company? You can do this.
Yeah, but I got other things to do. I could be the
one of your
mouthpiece.
students. You can kind of put a little message in there.
Oh yeah, but I do that. And whoever's listening to this, somebody's got to take the idea and run with it. I can't do it all. But if they took that foreclosed building, hydroponic indoor gardening with like organic oregano and lavender. So you're making teas and tinctures and oils for people in collaboration with, if someone's going to take meds for a while, but they also want to do healthier things. Control the marketplace. Just take it all. Like people are always going to give the middle finger, no offense, to a drug. If they don't want to take it, they're always going to want to find a different path.
Yeah.
I took the amoxicillin, but I also took things for my liver, dandelion green soup. And so when you teach people the tools, you'll make more money. Because if all you care about is money and profit, then if Merck made organic lavender tea and oregano tea and products, because the wellness industry is ridiculously huge.
It's barely big.
It's
Listen,
trillions.
I want to ask you this. I think it's very innovative that university reached out to you
back
to
then.
be an adjunct. Yeah, back then, to be an adjunct professor
of yoga,
really of tools that young people can use to deal with life. Let me ask you this question. What type of students were you getting? What individuals were answering the bell of like they wanted to learn?
Well, the irony in this, because when COVID hit, I lost everything. So I've been like, it's been tough. I've been through a lot. since 2000, and I had a fire in 2015 and lost my home. So I've been like mobilepreneuring, if I can call that mobily. I don't want to use the H word because it's not empowering. Mobilepreneuring, because I lost everything in a fire in 2015, and I had to kind of build back. And then just as I thought,
And as soon as you came back, then COVID.
COVID hit. Just as I was getting on my feet, start doing some veterans things, and then bam, I'm like, man, like, what am I like? You know, but you take the hit. And you trust that you got to take the hit. And by that time, you're like, okay, great.
Listen, for someone like you, the COVID lockdown had to be really hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because now you're disconnected. Like, I just think that maybe my interpretation of what yoga or music, there's some social need there. You don't just play by yourself. Like, there's other inputs that help you along the way.
So back to that in the previous point, the types of students, the beautiful, I guess, irony in the college gig was it's a mandatory 1-credit gen ed phys ed class. So they have to take it. All undergrads have to take it, graduate students. So it had some really like, wow, it's got some little job security because it was the only thing that survived COVID. Mm-hmm. But then I had to go virtual with it, which was nuts. So like, I want to be in the room. Hey, I'm Pulse. I got a Pulse. There's a live person. There's live people. I had to like film, 3 cameras like this, really nice half-hour segments.
You did all on Zoom?
Well, we talked on Zoom to go over questions and refinement of movement and range of motion, but I was not going to teach yoga through a little laptop camera. That would have been just disrespectful, not just to the yoga field in general, but to them. And so on my own dime, we created, my buddy Nick and I, God bless him, he had these new digital cameras. Like, hey, I'd love to try them out. So we just did half-hour segments with 3 camera shoots. And just as I'm talking, I could demonstrate, model, say, okay, pull back if the shoulders are tight. If they're shrugging, pull the shoulders, relax them down off the neck, and then go wider with your arms if your shoulders are running tight, or do a field goal position. So there's all these modifications that you can do in the moment. And I actually pulled it off, but it's like, I would never do that again. I don't want to do that again.
But it was pretty innovative for you to do that, right?
Well, I'm a trailblazer. My birthday, according to my Gemini background, I read somewhere in some astrology book, my birthday is called the day of the innovative trailblazer. So whatever that means, I'm always a solution. My dad was great that way. I mean, he sat us down at 7 and said, okay, here's your problem. Give me 5 solutions. I mean, he was drilling that into us at 7.
I'm sure the students appreciated having something in COVID.
Well, I think a lot of teachers didn't know, a lot of us didn't know how to make the move to a Zoom world. And it was very challenging. And if you didn't have, I don't know, I tried to come up and be passionate, even though I was talking to nobody in a room. And I just tried to be animated and engage them. And, there's students that, one student was hilarious. He actually made a cardboard cutout of himself and he put it in front of the desk so you really think he was there. I gave him an A. I said, that's brilliant. But he still did his assignments. But it was funny, but then I caught him. I was like, what are you doing, man? It's just like, it's like, oh man, I'm not like an overbearing teacher. I want you to just use the tools, manage your stress, manage your low back, because everybody's got tightness in the shoulders and they round, and learn how to breathe. They get music right in the beginning of the semester. They use it for 16 weeks. It's clinically proven music. It's 17 minutes long. I've been giving it out for free for years, almost 2 decades. And it just slows the brain down. It gets you into the breath. And we start with students typically at 90%. They can't sleep consistently well. By the end of the 16 weeks, they're all sleeping better.
That's
90%.
great.
So that's a big part of what I do. And the clinical tracking of the work, especially in the workplace. I did 2 months with a corporation last year over in Newton, New Jersey. And the 40 employees that were kind of part of the pilot program, the one woman on medicinal marijuana and anxiety stuff, she was able to stop it just in 4 weeks of exposure. And so now she's been keeping up with it, and she no longer uses medicinal marijuana. And no offense to those using it, you may need it for a while, but she was feeling like she was becoming too dependent on it. And it was like, she felt great, it was fun, but then, she was all eating more carbs and then gaining weight. And so there's all these other things you have to kind of monitor with that stuff. So there's no quick pill, but it's just nice to see if you just show people how to get inside, then the rest is up to you, because you can lead the horse to water, you can't make it drink.
Daniel, listening to you, I think first of all, huge turnaround story from what we're talking.
Not done yet. I'm in the 4th quarter trying to get my new album out.
I appreciate that you will acknowledge that, but huge progress, right? Let me say this. I think I see the passion in your eyes.
Thank you.
when you start talking about providing assistance to not just youth, but to help other people. What and why led you to then want to share, like in TEDx format?
I was called. I didn't pursue that. Like,
they pursued you.
I was at an event in New York City. People were talking, and then somebody said, "You got to talk." And then it just, we said it briefly when Tracy was asking a few preliminary questions. It's just this whole process of not over pushing, and it's hard because we're brought into this society and world competing with each other, and there's no one like you who does what you do the way you do it. No one like you the way you do camera work the way you do it, or Tracy or me. We're all uniquely special. And as I went through that refinement of ego and heart and compassion and God consciousness, whatever you want to call it, connection, you start to try to just see everyone like, how can we elevate each other? How can we collaborate? How can I improve? How could you? It's like referrals. So much of it just happens through referrals.
So you really rose like
breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs fall. If it falls in front of me,
no, but here's my comment.
I eat the breadcrumb.
You do a very important function of helping people, giving comfort to people. But then doing a TEDx is a little different. It's inspiring people. It is helping people.
Yeah.
But that's a different way to do it.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you? Like, was that
It's no different than doing a concert. I mean, I was able to get my band together. What year was that? It was Flavor Pill? Is that what they were called? Flavor? What was that organization? It was just a big event that was celebrating, it was like World Yoga Day. And so they had like nearly 12,000 yoga people doing yoga on the Great Lawn in Central Park. And I was able to get my band back together to play on the Great Lawn in Central Park. And that was like, wow, this is like a Paul Simon rock and roll Central Park moment. Like, it doesn't happen, for everybody. But we're not signed. I've always been independent. I haven't had like professional management. I haven't been on a big label.
Were you proud of that?
It's not about proud. It's just, I tried, I got close. There was an opportunity when I was younger, and I was able to get out of it because I didn't really fill the contract out right, and I didn't sign my name correctly. So that was funny. So the New York Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts helped me kind of get out of that.
Did your mom see you?
Oh yeah, she did. Back when she was
proud?
alive. Yeah, I mean, she just didn't understand me. Like, Mom died 2.5 years ago, but we were all there. So there was closure, unlike Dad.
No, but she got to see you up there.
Yeah, on TV. Yeah, she's been to shows back in the day. She was happy I'm happy. She was just, when I was really sick, mother's love is a mother's love.
That's why I'm bringing this up.
Because a mom, will go, I have a wonderful brother. I love him. I love my sister. She's the matriarch of the family now. She's a genius.
Were they proud of you?
Yeah. I mean, my siblings go through like these phases, and now I adore my siblings. And, my sister's a fucking warrior. She's like CFO level, brilliant CPA. She survived both World Trade Center bombings. I mean, she was a Dean Witter woman for a while, and now she's quiet in Virginia with an energy co-op. She's really, we've all come through our own kind of dark stuff and challenges, and I love them like so much. And, I think when you're in your 20s, you're really like, you try to understand each other because everybody's on a different path of trauma. And like, the way Dad died was interpreted differently for her than it was for my brother, than it was for me. So it's like with your siblings, those are some of the most important relationships that you try to find peace and healing and alignment with, especially if there's periods of time where you're not getting along, because you're never going to fully understand each other. It takes work. They love the fact, and it took a long time for my brother to understand my journey.
Hey, Twist of Fate listeners, did you know you can book me, Doug Younger, DY3, to speak at your next event, deliver a keynote, or commencement speech? I'll bring all that Twist of Fate energy, as well as my experiences as the founder and CEO of 3 Steps Forward, a marketing company. The accolades that come with being a university adjunct professor, and lessons from my corporate career in Fortune 500 businesses traveling to over 40 countries worldwide. You can also book coaching and workshop sessions for you and your team. Book me using the link below in the description for this episode. Hey, you never know. You may find your own inspiration leading to a twist of fate.
Saw that one major golf guy, I forget his name, but he had like severe autoimmune, and he got himself healthy again through juicing and raw food and plant-based diet. So I said, yeah, I mean, the veganism path can work because it's living food, it's oxygenated, it's got enzymes, and enzymes rebuild tissue. So you hear that, Merck Pharmaceuticals? You can make sprouts and sell them in the supermarkets too. You can do the drug thing, but sell sprouts. Sprouts heal, wheatgrass heals. I went to Hippocrates, which was Anne Wigmore's legacy. She was this incredible woman who did like fermented cabbage juice and like raw foods, and she was like Harriet Tubman, funneling out stage 4 cancer patients to this doctor in Boston, and he converted his penthouse into a clinic, and they were getting people well. They were curing cancer in the 70s. Nobody wants to talk about that. Why not? Like, look, let me die on my own terms. I want to die if I'm going to do cabbage juice on wheatgrass,
Daniel, you were nominated for this Grammy twice.
Ballot nominated first round in 2006 for an album I put out. One of the songs got into a nomination category.
I mean, you're a very humble guy, but my comment is, part of this process is also celebrating wins too.
I just,
that's a win.
Yeah,
my friend.
What's a resume? It just, your whole life is a curriculum vitae. You just, I don't have a one-pager. I got testimonial letters. I care about what I'm doing.
What were you doing that you were nominated for?
Just contemporary music, regular music.
Was it the flute? Was it I don't know what
the guitar bass. Well, this is a cigar box guitar made by an 83-year-old man. I found a Hogwarts cigar box, one of a kind, and we built this whole cool thing with a furniture leg, and it's a open detuning, so it allows a lot of versatility instead of just using guitars and acoustic guitars. It's easy, it's travel, it's lightweight. We made one out of a Bolo wine box, so that was fun. It's like a double neck, 3-neck.
What did you play that?
Rock and roll. I'm a rocker, dude. I can rock and roll. I'm a songwriter. I would love, my new album is all contemporary, trying to get the team together to market it. But I've dealt with some technological setbacks, some hacking, which I was telling Tracy that just brought up a lot of bullying from childhood. You work with veterans for 25 years, and all of a sudden some veteran comes out of the woodwork on Facebook and starts giving you crap, and he's off of his bonkers, and he's writing threats in writing, and the FBI won't do anything. So this stuff is happening to people, and nobody could do anything. Nobody has the money.
You had mentioned to me that
I'm tired of it.
Maybe getting hacked was a blessing in disguise.
Oh, it always is.
Because you went analog. It took you offline.
It took me time because it allowed me to look at childhood bullying, because that's what it is. When you don't realize that someone is in your stuff, you're like, wow, something's off, but you don't. We're not trained in it. Our devices are on all the time. I mean, there's a reason why now the iPhones, the new software, you can't, like, Bluetooth is not accessible on most of the apps. That's how they've been doing it. 80% of all the hacking is wireless. You don't have to hit something on your computer anymore. Someone could be in the room and they could just have your phone number, or they can see it and they can just drop stuff onto your phone or your computer. They could attack your phone. If they want to get to him, they could hit your phone right there, slip on Bluetooth, and dump it on your computer right now in this room from 30 feet.
I'm not going to be singing the blues. I'm with you. If they hack it and I have to go offline, then I'm going fishing. I told you that.
I know. And I just wish this wasn't where we were at. But like, I get it. Like if Douglas, if you were on the phone conversation talking about buying 3,000 pounds of fertilizer, NSA is going to be up your ass for 6 weeks listening to every phone call. They already are doing it. AT&T admitted to it. They're listening. They set people up. This FBI guy was on TV, on the YouTube, saying, "Oh yeah, we set anybody up we want." This is not what it's supposed to be. You're allowed to not have agreeing positions, and you may not like pharmaceuticals, and you should not have to be given shit for that. You should be able to stand in your truth and not obviously be, extremist in your views, but just understand that we're all part of a system, and what makes the system work is that maybe in our differences of perspective, we can actually get to another level of understanding and move perspectives up a notch of understanding and actually improve.
What's your favorite stress relieving activity to do?
These-
Because you've got a lot of things. You
These
can do.
days, well, I'm on a farm, which has been nice. And we've been actually doing these really cool, concerts for the community out of this beautiful old barn. So that's been fun. So that's been very peaceful. Just again, another facet of bringing people together. I still like walking, and I still like just going into
Walking where?
Just anywhere. There's lots of nice areas in Sussex County, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So nature's important. Call it forest bathing. Just get out, walk around, listen to birds. The steam room at the spa is great because teaching at the fitness club there is great because I get membership as part of the perks. So I try to make sure I'm there every day taking care of myself, because
You got to maintain your health.
you have to. And it's not easy, especially this post-COVID thing has been very tough for anyone who's been entrepreneurial, a consultant. I mean, like I must have in my career so far within all of the states that I've worked in with yoga. I mean, there's literally over 300 yoga centers I've taught in at some point. And more than half went out of business with COVID.
Yeah.
Couldn't make the
Yeah.
transition. Same thing with small restaurants. And so we're still
Listen,
recovering.
small business.
We're still recovering.
It's kind of interesting. The media, in my opinion, doesn't cover the post-COVID struggles of small business because there's not a voice for a lot of these people. But I agree. Look, I see it in my line of work. This is some of the toughest stuff I think I've seen.
I just feel it's taken between the stress of the technological setbacks and then learning it's actually been great because I'll go to the library and that's my office and then I'll use the phone and I've actually structured so it's not just I'm always connected to the device and answering emails every time of the day. I think
Let me share this with you, Daniel.
pacing, it's no different than
Let me share this with you. I post-COVID, early post-COVID, my company shot up like a rocket ship.
That's cool.
Within, let's say, that's 2 years post-COVID, 3 years post-COVID, deceleration.
Yeah.
4 years post-COVID, me having to make some very uncomfortable decisions and to deliver some bad news to some people that fought the war for me. And I can tell you the impact of having to do that.
Not easy.
It changed me. And part of how I dealt with that problem, I was sharing with you, is that I started doing something I love and working on my health, which is fishing and fasting. I made a commitment to my wife, because I'm hypertensive anyway, that I would fish twice a week, fast twice a week as a result.
Yeah, intermittent, whatever. Yeah.
And it's kind of what you call like the taking a walk.
Yeah.
Each time I'm out there in nature, I had to do that to save my life.
Yeah.
Because I could tell you that frustration, it was wearing me down. It was wearing me down. But nonetheless, not just in business, but in life, we have to keep doing that, right? We have to keep bouncing back. We have to find a way.
Well, it's easy to give up. I've been there. I've hovered, in that place all throughout my life. But I also, as I kept pushing, the ego is a good thing for a while because it'll fire you up to push yourself. But then when it exhausts its use in that almost toxic overloading type of energy, you start to find a more steadier ego that's a little bit more patient and compassionate because things are balancing out internally. I mean, what happens to you externally is obviously the triggering of a lot of internal imbalances. And that's why trauma is like, we have to try as a society, as a global culture, to have a much more compassionate discussion about trauma. from abuse. I've worked in recovery. I've held space for a lot of veterans, and when you hear people's stories, even mine, it's just I'm not comparing. Oh, who's got more trauma than we're not in a comparison.
It's just trauma. Yeah,
it's just the way it plays itself out. And if you're a sensitive soul or a sensitive kid, most of the bullying stuff is just brutal. I mean, kids can be brutal, and now the internet is the new bullying tool. The social media is another bullying avenue because there's just kids so angry with no real tools to process what's going on or what's not happening emotionally in terms of support at home. And then it's the same thing, like Chris Brown's a great example, right? He's just a tough childhood, so his dad very violent to his mom, and so that becomes the learned behavior of how love is modeled. And if you don't, I
think a lot of us don't have empathy where certain behaviors we'll see from someone. We don't even, modern society didn't care where that came from. Because the issue is, well, how do you fix it if you don't, to your point earlier, address the root cause problem? Let me ask you, some of my listeners listening on this, they may be in a dark tunnel themselves.
Got it.
You had mentioned that you have an album you're working on. You've released a lot of music. Where can some of them find some of your
Well, if you're
works?
under budgetary constraints, youtube.com/13hands13hands. There's about 70 or 80 videos across 25 years of work. Some of it's live performance. There's some chanting on there. There's some album stuff. The Bandcamp app, there's a 13 Hands page. It's a subscription for $3 or so if you want to join. But I haven't even been back on half of my accounts since they've been messed with.
Yeah.
So I've just kind of trying to figure out how to.
But that's how they can find it, right? It's still up there.
It's on there. Yeah, it's there. I'm just like I said.
And if they somebody want to take your class?
Well, if you're in northern New Jersey, there's a fitness club that's part of the Mineral Spa over at Crystal Springs, and I just do a couple classes a week, right there in Vernon, New Jersey. And that's easy enough. They're 1-hour classes. I think you have to join the fitness club if you're local to Sussex County, New Jersey. And then I have the college. I'm not really doing the yoga center. I'm just corporate presentations, getting back the services, that are speaking orientated, where you can get,
How do they find you if they want? There's people in corporations that definitely would probably
Well, I've been closed out of my LinkedIn, go figure. So that's another, someone, there's an interesting thing. I'm dealing with another rising up. And so
email address?
13hands.nomadyoga@gmail.com. 13hands.nomad, nomad, YOGA, yoga, nomadyoga@gmail.com. And that's the best way to just say hi, and connect if you want. And then I can PDF you more information and connect that way. That's really the best way right now. I'm back on Facebook under DALIEN 13 Hands, DALIEN 13 Hands. So you can always friend request. But that's pretty much it. I mean, I enjoy being in one place for the first time in my life. I'm in one area and I'm just trying to hunker down to provide, like I said, the services under, one roof. There's conferences that come to the hotel, so we're branching into those services to be there as professional development, mind, body, wellness stuff.
Yep.
So I'm trying. I'm trying.
Oh, Daniel, listen, man.
We're all trying, and you get up and down, and when you're an entrepreneur, you never know what you're making each year. And I've had some great years, and then I've lost it all. But I still believe in what I'm doing, and I forgive my hackers. I do. I can say that. But I don't have to tolerate it.
No, Daniel, let me tell you.
You know what I mean?
I have a perspective that entrepreneurism and life, it's about the journey, it's about the path, it's about the mean, it's not the end.
No.
And the heroic act is keep walking that path. I want to really, really thank you for being open, transparent, because I also think in society, we don't always talk about the setbacks. We don't talk about those dark impulses, those frustrations, these things. And you did. And to be honest with you, my friend, my heart goes out to you because I think you're doing a great job.
Me too. I'm happy.
I'm
impressed.
Just,
I'm building back the post-COVID hustle. has been like, anybody, if you've been through that COVID moment, we're like, who am I? What am I doing? Do I want to keep doing this? How am I going to survive? I couldn't even get a PPP loan for like $7,000 because, I mean, it was nothing. My small little business. And then you got 500 trillion in fraud that was committed for the PPP loan system. It's just like, I didn't take any money during COVID. I'm just like, man, like, I'm not a perfect person. I'm not, I'm working on myself. And, but I know what I got to work on. And I'm trying to see if it seems like people really want what I've been doing for 30 years now. So maybe that's part of it, just to be able to share and help others. We're getting older. Hopefully you get a little bit more balanced and grounded, and you pace yourself and you kind of see the forest for the trees. I mean, you need an ego, you need passion to get you up every morning to do this work together, what you do, and it's just trying to find the right relationship. So, food, nature, yoga, martial arts, Tai Chi, herbs, soups. Starts with soup. That's the t-shirt. Make soup. Lentil vegetable soup, good spices. Have a spice rack. I mean, learn about food and learn about spices. And cook. Prepare your meals. And have a good circle of friends and people who really accept you and see you. Like I said, I'm dating a wonderful person. 40 years later, codependent, loves her dad. No, I mean, like for me, it's something's
Healthy.
Something is changing. Not that I love all of my relationships. Not there was a lot of them. They just got stuck because of these trauma patterns. And, and then you realize you have a breakthrough. It's like, no, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You can't do the narcissistic mommy, daddy trauma punching bag role.
Yeah.
And it's not selfish. It's like you got to know that you need and deserve someone who really accepts you. And
again, I appreciate you sharing, and that I'm going to go to my final thoughts.
Yeah.
Twist of Fate community, I want to call to all of you from this conversation, you need to work on yourself, because if you want to do an entrepreneurial venture, it's going to take a whole lot of optimism, and it's going to take a whole lot of getting up off the ground.
Yeah.
When you get gut punched, when you feel like a failure, when you have life changes that will affect your ability to compete. But it's about continuing and not giving up. I hope that my guest today, Daniel's story, really helps you look at your life more holistically. And I hope that some of his tools can help you try some things to bring better equilibrium in your life. If you like this content, like, share, subscribe. We want to get these great American entrepreneurial stories out to you so that you can live not just a successful business life, but a better overall positive personal life. With that, I'll see you on the next Twist of Fate.
Twist of Fate is hosted by Doug Younger. It's produced by Julian Sepulveda and Zachary Davis at Mode of Motion Advertising and Film. Special thanks to all of our Patreon members. And if you want to be a part of our growing community, join our Patreon and get access to bonus material, Twist of Fate merch, and more. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.